Hello, everyone. Sorry that I'm not able to join you in person in this conference, and that I wasn't even able to be live electronically. These days, it's the season for olive picking in Palestine, and we have to pick olives as communities rather than individuals. And therefore, I had to stick to the time allocated by my home village to protect ourselves basically from the settlers. And that's why I wasn't able to even join you electronically. In any event, thank you for inviting me for this brief intervention. I will briefly consider the issue and the situation of workers in the occupied Palestinian territories in the time of Israeli genocide, as the genocide continues in the Gaza Strip with catastrophic loss of life, livelihood, infrastructure, destruction of the environment, destruction of every aspect of life and existence and sustenance of the Palestinians. I will also look more closely into the situation of workers within the West Bank on the backdrop that nearly 200,000 Palestinian workers lost their jobs as they were driven out of the Israeli labor market in October after the war on Gaza started. So the genocide comes with devastating, catastrophic, all these adjectives in any language cannot even start to describe what's happening in the Gaza Strip, but also to the population in the West Bank, as lives have been hammered and destruction of livelihoods has been ongoing, confiscation of land. Israel, within the Gaza Strip, the destruction to livelihoods has basically resulted in a loss of employment and jobs for people. The Central Bureau of Statistics, the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, estimates unemployment rate in the Gaza Strip to stand at nearly 80%. The 20 remaining percent of the population that are working are not actually working. They're just receiving wages either by being associated with the public sector, i.e. teachers, healthcare, public sector employees, or basically the journalists who are working to provide us with all the necessary yet horrific images that come out of the Gaza Strip. Poverty rates in the Gaza Strip are unprecedented. The destruction to the infrastructure and agricultural land is also catastrophic. Within the West Bank, actually, it has been estimated that unemployment rates have risen, not as much as in the Gaza Strip, of course, but to nearly 33% of the population in the Gaza Strip are unemployed. I will show you now some slides that might actually provide us with a more sort of glimpse of a more historic and comparative data and statistics regarding here in my first contribution is regarding unemployment. You can see historically unemployment rates currently in Palestine, in the West Bank and Gaza Strip are actually the highest ever. These are totally unprecedented. Here, I want to highlight that those workers who remained in their workplaces, many of them had their wages and work hours cut. So businesses within the West Bank that have been affected badly by the war, the ongoing genocide in Gaza, they were affected through several mechanisms. checkpoints, closures, destruction of agricultural sector, destruction of farms, businesses. All of these factors meant that workplaces managed to keep on as many workers as possible through reducing work hours and creating shifts for workers. So those who used to work 8 hours ended up working 4 hours, of course, being paid 4 hours and even less. But this was a coping mechanism for workers in order to continue with whatever work they had and in order to minimize on the numbers of the unemployed. Yet, it's visible in this figure to see that wages have declined, and wages have declined because work hours in some areas, in some sectors declined, but in other sectors, wages have declined because they were actually paid less, even that their work hours remained the same. And this was actually running with the consent of workers. Workers didn't want to stop working, even when their wages were cut, and they didn't protest. This is, it's trying to cope during catastrophic periods whereby workers and businesses try to compromise in order to keep on as many workers at work as possible. All sectors have been devastated. This figure just shows the West Bank. It shows that basically agriculture is the only sector that kept its workers on. All other sectors contracted, particularly the construction sector and industry. These two sectors rely heavily on imports. Very many of these imports are from Israel, but also from the rest of the world. And this is why these sectors contracted. Agriculture is usually historically works as a cushioning sector for the for employment in times of crisis. My final slide in this brief presentation looks at people's coping mechanisms, not people's, actually workers and their families' coping mechanisms. This is also just for the West Bank. It does not encompass the Gaza Strip. And it shows that people had to reduce on their food consumption, on their health care. They had to use their savings, and they had to rely on various mechanisms such as borrowing and pushing their children to seek work. All of these mechanisms had to be utilized by workers' families in order to survive. Finally, I just want to emphasize the importance of responding to this catastrophic reality in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Your solidarity and standing with workers who have been facing devastating outcomes, who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their homes, who have lost their schools, and so on, is extremely, extremely significant, not just for the sake of these workers and for the sake of Palestinians, but also for the sake of humanity. We cannot accept genocide and atrocities, brutality as a normal conduct of business. Standing up through BDS, activation of BDS, not just using it as a slogan, is important. Utilizing experience of South Africa, applying pressure on governments to apply sanctions on arms, but also economic, cultural, and academic are important avenues for solidarity. Thank you for listening to this brief encounter, and thank you for your solidarity. Hopefully, this genocide will end soon, but also everyone involved will hopefully be held accountable. Thank you.